Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now watching the Snowfall Aftermath. And I'm here with Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you doing, Rich?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What's up, indeed? And today we will be recapping Snowfall Season 5, Episode 5. And this episode is part one of the Iliad. And, we just kind of looked this up, and the Iliad is actually a Greek poem. And I'm going to read just a little description of this poem because obviously this was a very crazy episode, so like deep meanings of what the writers were going for here. So the story is set during the Trojan War, the 10-year siege on the city of Troy by a coalition of Greek states, and it tells of the battles and events during the weeks of a quarrel between King, I can't pronounce the name of the king, but a king and the warrior Achilles. And then it goes on to say that although the story covers only a few weeks of the final year of the war, the Iliad mentions or alludes to many of the Greek legends about the siege. So yeah, it basically says that this is like a final days of the war. So that's a very interesting fact there. So yeah, some crazy things happened, and we're gonna give our takeaways on this episode, and then after that we're gonna go on to have our questions and discussion segment, where we have more of a back and forth about what happened in this episode and what it means for the future. But before we do that, I just want to give a friendly reminder that, if you enjoy listening to the show, it is very important that, you leave a comment and like the video, because, these things help us to grow. It helps to keep us going a little bit, because we need a reason to do this because it is all that we're doing is for free. We don't get paid for this or anything. So, this is free entertainment, free discussion, and this is just out of love and passion because we love doing this. And
hmm
it all means a lot more if you guys get engaged and leave your comments and thoughts and theories. And if you like the video, and you can consider subscribing to the channel also because we cover other shows and movies too that you might like, including Power Book 4 Force at the moment. So definitely go check out that stuff. But yeah, we're going to get into our takeaways now. And Richard here is taking the lead this week on the takeaways. So go ahead, Richard.
All right, so let me start by saying yes, this was a very crazy episode of Snowfall, but it was excellent because it kept the tension going from the very beginning to the very end. And I know there were some people that did not like the ending. We'll get into that a little bit later, but I'm just going to talk about some of the key takeaways from this episode. So, as Gary mentioned, the Iliad, it is based on a Greek poem. The way this episode started, you had Franklin and Verone getting the news that they got the property deal to go through, and then they approached Louis and Jerome to see if they can now give them the 10 million. The thing is, however, is that Louis and Jerome never agreed to the deal. They said they would take a look at it and then they would come up with their decision at some point in time. So Franklin is obviously angry because in his mind, he wants to do this deal, as he says, to set up his family. Really, it's just to set up himself, though. We already know that. The character is, he definitely is thinking about the family, but he's thinking more so about himself and getting out of the game at some point in time. So when that doesn't work out, all of a sudden, now you're starting to see the attack that takes place later in this episode, starting when Franklin, goes to the drop spot with and meets up with Uso and Teddy. And you see that there is somebody that decides to, basically do a drive-by shooting, basically shoots everybody. Um, and what ends up happening is Teddy gets separated from Uso and Franklin. Of course, Franklin then decides to he sends out a page to call Jerome to give Jerome a warning because Jerome is at the time he's out with, he's out eating they're eating at a restaurant outside. He's with Louis, Verone, and Sissy. And let me just say this real quick because I want to also mention this. Prior to all this happening, we do see Sissy meeting up with this guy again. The guy's name is Ruben. I believe he does work for. CIA because she mentioned intelligence agency. Don't really know for sure where he works, but she mentions to him about once again her intent to take out Teddy, and he tells her, "No, the only way for that I'm going to be able to work with you is that you're going to have to let me know all of the business details that Franklin is involved with," and he actually wants her to bug her son. Now, last week on this show, I said normally when someone presents a deal or some type of offer, they're not just wanting to get what it is that you want done. They actually have a much larger goal in hand. So obviously, while Sissy wants Teddy to be taken out, she has to understand these people also want Franklin. They want his information, and they will be willing to take down everybody involved in all of this. That's why I said, I thought it was great that they got to that immediately. They didn't beat around the bush about what this guy's intentions were. You knew right as soon as this episode started. Yes, we will do what you want as far as taking out Teddy, but we also want your son and all the intel that he has. So I give them props for that because sometimes when I watch a show, it takes a while for somebody to see how this all plays out in terms of them of knowing what somebody's true intentions are. So I give them credit for that. But to go back to what I was saying again, to go back to Jerome, after he gets the call from Franklin, he makes the call to Franklin. There is a drive-by attempt as well on them, and of course, some people that are there at the restaurant do get shot. They do get harmed. The police do stop by. So we do see that in that particular moment, Jerome, Sissy, Louis, and Verone are all held up by the police. And we'll come back to that later. But all this is going on, Uso and Franklin, they manage to eventually, the car dies. They have to go out on foot, and they're carrying about, I believe they said, $3 million in cash that they have with them as they are on foot. So they start walking around the city, and of course, there's a gang. There's another gang that stops them and sees they have the bag and decides to go after them. So the entirety of this whole episode, it's like all of the chaos is happening to these main characters. They do end up going. They do find a place that they can hide. I believe it's underneath a house in like the crawl space area. They hide there for a little while and they leave the money in there. Eventually, later on in the episode, they do end up going to a place that Oso believes, yes, my friend lives here. We'll go into this house. Actually, it's the wrong house. And then all of a sudden, it's this situation where they are tranquilized. And then when they wake up, they're inside a cage and there's a tiger next to them in the cage right next to them. So I do think that was a bit extreme to go to that extent. I understand that there are some people that saw this and said, okay, the writing is going off the rails because you're now introducing all this other stuff that's happening with this tiger. Because in my opinion, everything that happened in this episode, it made sense and it was realistic as something that could happen. This is a little extreme to go with the whole tiger thing because I guess it meant to show you that it's a very crazy situation, crazy times. Anything can happen, I guess. But yeah, that was a little chaotic. But in any event, it made me interested to see what happens next week because that ending, I feel like if I was FX and I know how I treated the first and second season, it's the first and second episode of the season as a premiere with 2 episodes. This should have been a 2-episode premiere where you got the entire story from watching instead of waiting until next week to see what happens. But I will say that again, it was a lot of tension throughout the episode, so it made sense. So that pretty much covers as far as Franklin and Uso in this episode. One other takeaway I want to mention, and then some key points. Going back to Teddy, as he is separated in this episode, he does come across there is a person he has a past with called Parisa. Now, I would have to go back and watch Snowfall to see if this character showed up in previous seasons. She probably did. I just don't remember because it's been such a long time. But pretty much he goes there hoping that she can basically patch him up. And she said, well, she'll do it, but she needs him to pay her a ton of money. So in doing so, though, the very important detail that I think needs to be mentioned, because I don't know if people caught that, is that when Teddy is there lying on the floor, there's a whole bunch of blood, and she comes in there, she discovers him. She then decides, okay, if I'm going to help you, I need to put on some gloves and protect myself, because there was a nurse at the hospital that caught HIV from a patient, making mention of that, and it's a very clear and distinct message, because we also know earlier in this episode, Franklin says, "Oh yeah, Peaches is out sick, so he's not around." So he has another guy that basically does security for him when he does the drop with Teddy and Uso earlier in the episode. Here's the thing: I think that is definitely connected, because they're not going to mention something about HIV in this episode, and that Peaches is sick again, and then think that this is not connected, or that they won't come back to this again later. Now, again, we'll see what happens with Peaches as the season continues, but I 100% think that this character has HIV now, because I don't think you're just going to mention something just for that. And we've already said on this show that when you look at all the stuff that they're talking about, they're trying to talk about things that were relevant during this time period. The HIV epidemic was very much running rampant at this time as well. So you have to show that one way or another. So I definitely think that's what we're going to see about that as far as Peaches is concerned. But going back to Teddy, she does drug him. And when he wakes up, he sees her, he's still drugged up. She says, "Oh, I'm going to move your car." He says, "Don't move the car." She goes out to the car, and then she opens the trunk to see that this is when, earlier in the episode when Teddy, he started snorting some coke, and so he put some on his wound where he got shot at. So that means that now she's definitely going, she knows that he has coke. This is a very dangerous situation for Teddy. We know that the character is very ruthless, so we'll see how he handles that. And that may be a question that we talk about a little bit later on this show. But overall, what I like about this episode is that it followed the chaos with every single character that we know about on the show, and that we feel a certain type of way about, especially with Franklin. A lot of people care about the character. They care about Leon. All these characters in this entire episode followed all of the chaos and how it impacted every single character. And the last point that I will mention about Leon, because again, this whole episode, he was talking about, "Oh, I need to get access to some guns for protection in case the police come back," so on and so forth. So he goes to visit Avi to get the guns, tells him, "No, I just want shotguns and handguns. I don't want no really high profile weapons." And in doing so, the same person that did a hit earlier in this episode now comes back and hits them also. Does manage to shoot somebody that works for Avi as well. But luckily, none of the key characters got killed, but Leon did kill one of the guys that was in this gang. So clearly, what they do know by the end of this episode is that it's somebody that they know, somebody that knows them well, knows where they hang out, knows about all the stuff that's going on with their business. So we'll have to see which direction it is that they go with that. But overall, I thought it was a great episode because, again, it kept you on the edge of your seat the entire episode. I haven't seen one show do that in quite a while, so I have to give them props for that, 100%. Even though the tiger thing was a little extreme at the end of the episode, I understand that. And I know people are going to criticize that. But again, continue to watch the part 2 and see how the storyline plays out. That's what I say. But overall, I thought it was a fantastic episode. Definitely a reason to watch Snowfall, because I'm very curious to see what happens with these characters as we wind down to what is going to eventually be the final season. If it gets to season 6, yeah, that's probably going to be the last season. So, but yeah, great episode. Looking forward to seeing what happens next week.
Oh yeah, excellent takeaways. And yeah, just to piggyback off of that point you just said, that season 6 will probably be the last season. There was a part of that, that Iliad description we read,
Mm-hmm.
and it says that it so it basically follows the fall of Troy. So if we look at Troy as like the empire that they've built here,
Mm-hmm.
so like this is the beginning of the end kind of thing. So I could totally see the next season. We're at the midway point of season 5. I think they're going to be dealing with the fallout of this whole event that happened in this episode. They're going to be dealing with that for the rest of the season probably, and this is going to lead to the end probably. So that's the way I'm kind of looking at things. But yeah, we're gonna definitely dive into that a bit more when we get to our questions. But I'll go ahead and give my takeaways because you said a lot of great stuff. And yeah, there's some things that I want to touch on as well. Um, so you mentioned the whole Franklin and Gustavo, or also as he calls them, I guess. Uh, they spent a lot of time together in this episode, and that was kind of refreshing to see because we haven't seen the two of them together on screen a whole lot. Particularly this season, we have seen them together in previous seasons, but I think it was cool to kind of just see them kind of in their survival element together, because they were like very vulnerable, very exposed, and they were carrying around this $3 million in their bag and everything. So yeah, it was really like it was really vulnerable for them. And I just liked seeing the dynamic between the two of them without Teddy being involved. And I'm wondering if that is going to affect their relationship in the future, if they built some kind of bond together that will kind of trump Teddy's say on things. um or or could it be that Gustavo will sell out Franklin? But after seeing how the two of them kind of went into survival mode together today, I don't think that bond will be severed so easily now. You were going to say something?
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt you because I want you to continue. I agree with the takeaway. I just want to make a quick comment since you mentioned that.
Mhm.
I believe the simple fact that he told Uso that he's expecting a child. I don't think Teddy knows that information yet. So that is a very important detail because yes, they bonded, and he mentioned Uso when they in the little moment that they had where they did reminisce about how their day started. They were talking about the positive things, about how Franklin had got the deal with Verone, and how Uso was talking about the fact that his he was making pancakes for his kids. So I think that bond is important, and you make a very good point. I would not be surprised if that's going to play a role in how they interact later whenever the thing happens with Teddy, because it definitely is going to happen with this Teddy versus Franklin thing, and I'm very curious to see where Gustavo stands once all that actually comes to a head.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely, I agree. And Gustavo, I think he feels like that the way Teddy was injured, I think he feels like there's a little chance that he'll even survive because he saw the severity of his injuries. So he might think that Teddy might not even survive what happened. Um, so it'll be interesting to see what the response is once they all kind of get back together. Um, and I have a question specifically about that later, so we'll touch on that more. But yeah, that whole dynamic I think is interesting. I think for sure that Franklin and Gustavo, they've kind of bonded in a way that it will be hard for Teddy to kind of get in the middle of it. And Franklin kind of trusted him enough to tell him that his girl is pregnant and everything. And so yeah, I think that was cool to see. Um, and then you had the whole, obviously, Uncle Jerome and Aunt Louie, because Franklin, he was trying to get them involved in the investment at the beginning, and Louie, she wasn't really feeling it at all. She was like, Franklin, this is your dream, but we got our dream already. We're not really feeling this. But of course, Veronique, she didn't want to give up, and she had Sissy come to dinner, come to lunch, I guess, with them. And then the shooters came for them at the lunch and shot up the whole restaurant. Somebody died, like it was very dramatic. Um, but then, the police came through, and of course they looked very suspect walking across the street. You got Jerome with his big jewelry and everything, his standout shirts and everything like that. So the cops went right for them, like and yeah, so they to get out of that predicament, they actually had to call Buckley. um, and I definitely feel like after Buckley helped them out in this situation, he's going to come back with a vengeance now. Like he's going to be very persistent, because now he's got them in a position where they feel like they owe him, because he kind of helped them get out of that. So he's definitely going to call in that favor, after this is all said and done, and he's going to put even more pressure on Louis and Jerome to kind of give up someone, or he's going to continue to be a nuisance. So yeah, I think there's going to be it's going to reach a breaking point now, because I know Jerome doesn't like him at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just about to say, I didn't know if you were going to mention this later, but yeah, it definitely was the interaction between Jerome and Buckley. I think that definitely was foreshadowing what's to come, because I would not be surprised if Jerome does just go at this guy and just starts to beat him up. There was a trailer that was released for the season a while back that showed Jerome beating up somebody. I don't recall who he was beating up in that trailer because it was a very quick flash.
Yeah.
But I would not be surprised if that eventually happens, because I didn't realize there was that much tension between him and Buckley. We know that the last time that Buckley came to the club and spoke with Louis alone, Jerome didn't want to be a part of that conversation. So I figured there would be some tension, but definitely that the way he was talking to him in this episode, it felt like Jerome was about to whoop his ass right there. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with that, because it's definitely going to get worse between those two.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I definitely wouldn't be surprised if that's who he was beating up. Like, and that would be very satisfying to see, I must say, because I don't like the Buckley character.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's definitely gonna, he's gonna be a nuisance now that he's kind of got this one up on them. The fact that he helped them get out of this situation, because it would have looked very bad, if they would have found that gun. And yeah, it could have been potentially very bad for them. And even for Sissy, getting involved in that too. So it's a good thing that, they got out of that. But now they're gonna owe a big favor to Buckley. So we'll see what happens there. And then so yeah, speaking of Sissy, in light of what happened in this episode, this episode started with her talking to the guy. What was his name again? Rich, this mysterious CIA dude that she's.
Oh yeah, his name is Ruben.
Ruben, right?
Yeah, in the cafe. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in the cafe. So she was talking to Ruben, and obviously he wants her to take that pen and bug Franklin's office, and she wasn't very fond of that idea, because she wants to focus on getting Teddy. But to get Teddy, it seems like they need to get Franklin too, or they need to find out about the whole operation and what Teddy is doing, in more detail. And an easy way to do that is to bug Franklin, I guess. And like you said, Rich, I don't think they just want Teddy. Like if they're gonna do like this whole takedown of Teddy, I think they're gonna want everybody who's involved. So they're going to want Franklin too, even if they're not being honest with Sissy about it. So yeah, but I think that after what happened in this episode, it's kind of showed everybody how serious this situation is, like with the drugs, and it's showing them how vulnerable they are. Like, because even in Franklin's position, he probably rarely is around the drugs except when he's picking them up, I guess. Like he doesn't physically sell the drugs himself. I guess he wholesale, he sells it to his partners and everything like that, and then they sell it to the streets, and then the streets sell it, on the streets and stuff. But even with that separation, they are very vulnerable, especially if this hit squad was able to figure out where they were going to be, where all of them were going to be, and just drive up and shoot them like that. Like, this makes them very vulnerable. And I think this has showed them how dangerous it is. And it goes back to last week's episode a little bit, because we had, the whole part where, there was that poet, the rapper, and, he was rapping all of the business. Like, he knew everything about the operation. He knew, like, the whole history, the stuff that we've seen in the show, who killed who, who betrayed who, and this and that. So if that rapper knows that, that means everybody knows that. And if everybody knows that, that means everybody knows everything there is to know about Franklin, Jerome, and Louis. So, that puts them in a very, very, very dangerous position that, so many people know about them, know where they're going to be, and, know where they live, know their family members, and all of that stuff. So I think it's really starting to hit them how serious this situation is, and I think this is enough to make someone like Sissy change her mind and change her approach on things. But was you going to say something, Rich?
Oh no, I agree 100% that yeah, because things are a lot more dangerous now, it's definitely going to test a lot of those theories to see whether or not Sissy is going to turn around and bug her son, give up her son, and also I would add also to test it. As far as Louis giving up somebody, Louis could still give up Franklin, as you said before, and I think that we're definitely going to know more. I think after we see the next episode, as far as what that decision is going to be made at some point in time, but we know that Louis and Franklin, they are still not on good terms. And the only way that this situation gets resolved is if somebody has to eventually, I think, take down the other. I'm not saying that Louis, kill Franklin, no. But if Louis needs to get him out of the picture so that she can focus on doing what she wants to do, running the business her way, then yeah, she will definitely give up Franklin. So I'm very curious to see how this situation is going to impact others. And one last point I will make is that I know we had someone leave some comments last week saying that they fully believe that Kevin's brother is the one that's involved in all of this. He is the one that is, because it makes sense, because the thing about it is that you mentioned that everybody knows about Franklin's history because of the music, but also I'm pretty sure that Kevin's family knows because he got arrested after this guy got shot. Even though he wasn't there for long, they had to know he was involved in all of this. So they definitely know some information. We just have to wait to see how it plays out on the actual show. But I think that was a very good point that commenter said about the fact that yeah, Kevin's brother is probably behind all of this. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, yeah, that is a strong theory there, and we're going to touch on that very soon. But yeah, that's pretty much my takeaways. That last point was basically just, yeah, I think this is enough. Like what happened here, I think this is enough to make either Sissy or Louis want to bug someone or snitch on them, because if it comes down to somebody dying, somebody losing their life, or being locked up, I think the best solution is for them to just be locked up, because then at least they're still alive. You can visit them, and I mean, there's going to be a case, so you could fight the case still as well. But yeah, like if it comes down to death or imprisonment, I think they're not ideal, but one of them is better than the other. So I think if Louis has to make that choice between Franklin possibly losing his life, or using using Franklin as a pawn to give him up to Buckley so that she can take charge of the whole operation or something like that. I think that's the easy choice for her to make. So yeah. And then in Sissy's case, she just wants to protect her family. She wants to protect her son first and foremost. And it probably won't be easy to give him up. But I think if it comes down to it, she would do the right thing. She knows what the right thing is. She knows that Franklin made a choice, and he wanted to go down this path. And what he's doing it's not ethical. He made the decision to do things the wrong way. so he has to live with that decision. And I think ultimately she just doesn't want him to die. She doesn't want to see him dead. So yeah, she might actually make the decision to plant that pen somewhere. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I think this whole ordeal that happened in this episode changes everything. Like everything is going to change after, I think. So yeah. But with that being said, we are gonna get to our questions and discussion segment so we can talk about this in more detail. But before we do that, just a quick reminder again, hit the like button, leave your comments, let us know your thoughts and theories, and subscribe to the channel. But yeah, so let's get right into it. So the first question is basically going to be, who do you think is behind the shootings? Now, we kind of just spoke about, the possibility of it being related to Kevin's family. That was a theory that someone had. And I think personally that this is a pretty strong theory. And I also want to say that, because there was a theory that I saw that it's actually the people that Sissy recruited, like Ruben's people or whatever. Somebody said that it could be connected to them actually trying to take out all of the people in charge of this drug operation. And for me, I just don't think that would be the case, because these looked like gangbangers, and they didn't look particularly like, they didn't look like professional hitmen. It didn't look like a professional hit squad, because a professional hit squad would have, like, you wouldn't have seen them coming. They would have like snuck up on these men and just took their lives. Like they would have had like maybe something like a SWAT team. Like it wouldn't be a SWAT team, but they would have that precision. They would have the precision of a SWAT team. Like, there wouldn't be like a straight shootout like what we saw, I think. So I think it's somebody on the street side of things for sure. And that leans heavily into the theory that this is related to Kevin's family, because they would be able to figure out what Franklin and his family are doing, and they would be able to have people you know um, get into a van like that and just like follow these people and shoot at them. Like, so it's definitely gang related. It's definitely street related, I think. And yeah, I don't think it's anyone professional. I don't think it's CIA or anything like that. So it's just a matter of who on the street level would want to do this to Franklin. And the Kevin theory is strong because we know that this is something that would be coming back to haunt Franklin. It would be something from his past that he specifically did that is coming back to hurt him. So that kind of makes it, it makes it more poetic, more significant. It makes it more painful to know that a mistake you made in the past is now, at the height of your success, is now coming back to haunt you. So I think that would be a great spin on this if it did end up being that. But there's also other theories you can flirt with, like, is it Scully? I don't think it's Scully, but I'm sure, maybe some people think that he's trying to take over. And I don't know, like Colombians, that was another, that was something that we talked about before. I don't, after seeing this, I don't think it's Colombians, but you never know. But yeah, I think the Kevin theory is the strongest one currently. But what do you think about all of that, Rich?
So so I want to give a shout out. The commenter I mentioned earlier, his name is JB, and he had made a comment on this particular on our last podcast. He left a comment about this. Here's the thing. Snowfall did cast the actor. His name is Devon Nixon, and he's playing the character Kane Hamilton. The Kevin character who was killed, his last name was Hamilton. So I could understand why somebody would say this is definitely Kane, Kevin's brother that's coming back for revenge. And as you said, if talking about how much sense it makes in terms of a the tragic fall of Franklin and his operation, it makes perfect sense because Kevin was there at the very beginning of all of this, and we saw what happened to that character because he's decided to get a little bit greedy and try to go behind Franklin's back. So I think that theory makes the most sense. It is the strongest. However, I do want to say that the people who you said are making the comment about the fact that this could be the same agency, I the reason why I would say I wouldn't rule that out is because they could have been doing these things to scare Sissy into cooperating with them. I'm not saying that they would be the ones to to actually do the shooting, but they could have paid these gangs to say, listen, we already know some intel on where they're going to be at. We need you guys to be willing to go and scare them. Because the thing about it that I think stands out is that when Leon killed one of the guys, and then he goes back and he has a conversation with the crew, he says they didn't even care that the person was killed, and they wasn't able to identify who the person was at all. So obviously, I think you're trying to send a message. There's going to be some casualties in that process, but I think it makes even more sense if it is Kevin, because again, Kevin has nothing to lose. They killed his brother. If it is Kevin's brother, they killed his brother. So I think it makes sense that that it is him more so than anything else. The only reason why I say it comes out of left field is because we haven't heard anything about Kevin's family since the character got killed. So it definitely comes out of left field. It's going to make somebody have to go back and watch the show from the very beginning and see the fallout and then see what happens next. But I don't recall us ever seeing Kevin's brother in the show prior to this. So it definitely comes out of left field, but it 100% makes sense that he would be the one that now wants to come after Franklin and everybody else. So we'll have to wait and see. And as for the theory that it could have been the Colombians definitely, as you said before on this show, they were definitely running things also around this time period. So clearly that can be something that happens, after this event. They could still be a part of this, of what's happening in this show. Because again, as you said, this is really the beginning of the end of what's happening with Franklin. They could be the ones that end up coming in and taking over after whatever happens with Franklin, whether he gets arrested or gets killed. So I think that's still a possibility. But for now, I definitely think the strongest theory is that it's definitely related to Kevin. We'll have to see. But I do like that theory that this other group that Sissy is working with, they are trying to force things to happen so that she has to cooperate with them. I really like that theory a lot. So I'm just curious to see which one it is, but hopefully we'll get some answers next week.
Oh yeah. And yeah, that is a good point too. Like it could be, they could have just hired these people to take shots at them to kind of force Sissy's hand a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because maybe that Ruben guy will come back to her, in the next episode or whatever, and be like, I see things are getting hot right now, and we really need to, put pressure on the situation so that we can take down Teddy or whatever. So then, that will kind of make Sissy think twice, and maybe she will bug, Franklin or someone. So yeah, that could definitely be the case. And thinking about it more as well, the Colombians could be involved because they are like a big supplier of the drug, or they were at this time,
Mm-hmm.
because of Pablo Escobar. So it could be that, let's say hypothetically, this is Kevin's crew or something, or Kevin's brother's crew. Let's say this is them wanting to get even with Franklin and also take over the streets. Maybe the Colombians is their supplier. Maybe they're working with Colombians to actually get their product, because whoever takes over would need to have that supply. That they would need to have the drugs to put into the streets. So,
you see, that makes perfect sense too. Yeah. See, maybe Gary, maybe you should be a writer on this show. That makes sense too. A lot of these things, it makes sense. So we have to see which direction they can take it, but they can definitely go down any of those paths.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, definitely chime in the comments. I want to hear more theories about that because they definitely left it very ambiguous in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we'll find out more in part two, but yeah, I like that they left it so ambiguous to instead of just answering the question of who this is, they left us thinking about it, and now we're gonna have this question on our minds for the next week, like who was it, so that's pretty cool. That's what Snowfall gets right. It's a real thinking person's show. Like it makes
Mm-hmm.
you think about things. So that's great. Um, so I guess the next question is, what do you think Teddy's immediate reaction is going to be when he's nursed back to full health? Like when he makes a recovery, we're assuming he's going to. I mean, it would make sense that he recovers. But what is his first course of action going to be? Now, of course, he is in the care of this Parissa character, and I was her last patient, by the way, just so you know. It was a very interesting experience, I'll say that. But yeah, he is in the care of Parissa. So what is his reaction going to be like when he recovers? And you mentioned earlier that she now knows about the cocaine in the car. She knows that he's up to something. And yeah, like he's in a very vulnerable state, and she could very much take advantage of that. So, what do you think's going to happen when he recovers, Rich?
Well, first and foremost, to answer the first part of this question, I 100% believe that Teddy will blame Franklin for this because, I mean, he's already been taking more of an interest in really finding out what all Franklin is doing. When they go to these drops, just really investigating him and his interaction with Gustavo. So immediately he's going to think, hey, this guy, this Franklin is the one that brought all of this chaos because again they did a drive-by. He's going to think that, well, that's I mean the only people that knew about this drop spot was Franklin and Gustavo, and he's not going to suspect that Gustavo had anything to do with any of this. So he's definitely going to think that Franklin had played a role in all of this. That's number one. As for what he's going to do when he actually recovers and is no longer drugged up, what this show has told us about Franklin, I mean to say Teddy, is that now this is a character that has nothing left to lose. He will be very ruthless and kill anybody that gets in his way. So I kind of feel like Parissa is on her way out. I mean, I would not be surprised if he kills her in the next episode, or maybe it happened. Maybe in the beginning he agrees to work with her since she knows that he has the coke, all this other stuff, and she helped him. But I think since the character is ruthless, and he told her, even though he was drugged up, he said, "Don't move my car. Don't move the car." She still moved it, and then she discovers, oh, the drugs. And the thing is, as soon as she said, "I want to move your car," I said to myself, "Oh, she's totally going to find the drugs." That's what happens. So I think it's 100% confirmed that what you can expect to happen in the next episode is that when he does recover, he is probably going to take her out. Now, the other thing I think is interesting is about what connections does she have? And that's why I said I would need to go back and see if this character was on previous seasons. Is it possible that she already knows some Colombians? Is it possible that she knows somebody that is also trying to sell this product? And if she brings this information to them, then once again, they're in trouble. So I kind of feel like Teddy has to take her out at some point in time. But I definitely want to learn more about this character and what the intentions are that she has now that she knows what she knows about him. She already knows he's a CIA guy, and she knows that he has access to drugs. So this is not good for Teddy. But yeah, I think right away, immediate reaction, as soon as he gets a chance, he's going to kill her. That's what my guess is for sure.
I like that take because it would kind of show the ruthlessness of Teddy's character once again,
Mm-hmm.
and it will remind us that this is a guy that will do anything to maintain his spot and his position, and not let things get out of his control. And then that would really intensify things moving forward because after he kills Parissa, he's gonna surely he's gonna be on a warpath after that because it's like he's not gonna be happy about what happened to him. he almost lost his life, you know. And I'm pretty sure he's gonna blame Franklin, like you said, for what happened. So yeah, he's not gonna be very nice about things moving forward. But yeah, um, he's very fortunate for making it after an injury like that. We've seen him in hot water before, and he's always kind of survived. He you know, he's a survivor after all, and he's had some expert training, I guess, in the CIA. So yeah, he's definitely not going to be happy, and I look forward to seeing what you know, what does happen. So I guess I'll ask the next question that kind of leads on to that. So do you think, you know, once Teddy is nursed back to health, and you know, let's say, you know, Franklin, he reunites with everyone, you know, with Leon and Louis and Jerome, and he finds out everyone's okay and everyone's safe. um you know, how is that how is that next meeting going to go between Franklin and Teddy? Like, because surely they can't go back to working like normal. I think there's going to be a level of paranoia involved, and they're not going to meet in the same place anymore. You know, and it might even be under different circumstances. It might be that, you know, it's just Franklin and Gustavo. Like maybe Teddy will, you know, have Gustavo being in charge of the meetings from now on, and maybe Teddy and Franklin will have a separate conversation outside of the re-up, and you know, maybe he's going to put some kind of pressure on him, or he's going to threaten him, or you know, force him to kind of resolve the issue or something of that nature. There's so many things that could happen, but I definitely don't think things will be the same after this. So what do you imagine will happen after, you know, all of them are kind of safe and recovered? You know, what is going to be the next step in this alliance between Franklin and Teddy and Gustavo?
Well, I think that Teddy's definitely going to be paranoid about what happened, and he's going to definitely be a lot more watchful of everything that Franklin does. He may start to investigate places Franklin goes, everything of the sort now, because I'm pretty sure, again, he's going to definitely take it personal that he almost lost his life, and that Franklin is the one that opened up all of this and led to him getting shot. So he's going to definitely take it personal. At the same time, I also think, because again, they still have Franklin questioning, well, Teddy might have done something to Alton. I don't know. I think he's going to find out some some full documented proof that Teddy took out Alton. If not the next episode, immediately after that, it has to happen, because at this point, we already know how Teddy feels about Franklin, how he blames his father for everything that happened with him losing his position, and then him having to go above and beyond to try to get back in. So, for him to be angry at Franklin, we need Franklin to also be angry at Teddy. So it creates more tension between those two characters. So I kind of feel like he's going to find out, 100% find out very soon, if not next week, after this, the next episode that follows, he's going to find out, oh, Teddy did do this. And this now it sets up the whole fact that they have to continue working together, but there's conflict, and they can't just work together and ignore these types of things. So I definitely think the next time they have an interaction, it is going to be awkward. He's not going to fully trust Franklin, and he's going to definitely question and say, yes, there's going to be new deals, new terms, new place, as you said. Only me and you, no protection. We saw that in the trailer when Franklin met up with Franklin, and he said, "This guy is my protection." He says, "No, I'm your protection." So they're definitely going to change the way that they do things now, for sure. But yeah, I believe Teddy blames Franklin, and he's going to make it take it personal, and that's going to be very clear the next time they have the interaction with each other.
See, I like that. You're thinking like a writer now. Like when now Franklin needs something to be angry at him about. So
Oh yeah,
find out about Alton. Yeah, like I think that would be great if that happens, so that you know, you have two very angry people, you know, having to work together. Um, yeah, that will make for some very intense scenarios. And just to add on to that too, because I think, there will be a lot of paranoia on Teddy's behalf moving forward. I do think that he might actually force Franklin to resolve this beef or whatever it is,
Yeah.
we'll
Hmm.
find out. I think he's going to force Franklin to end it, whatever it is. Like, he's going to force him to kill those people responsible, and take care of it. Because they can't have a war like this. They can't have people shooting up places, shooting up restaurants, because that's going to make their operation hot, and that's going to make Teddy hot.
Hmm.
Uh, and I think Teddy is going to go back to following Franklin and observing what he's doing, and he might even follow the people around Franklin, his friend.
Hmm. Hmm.
And if he does that, he could easily see Sissy meeting with this Ruben guy, and
Yep.
you know
Yep.
that
See, that makes perfect sense.
yeah.
That
So,
makes a lot of sense.
yeah, that would make things very intense also. So yeah, so many possibilities of what could happen from here, but I definitely think nothing is going to be the same after this. um and so you mentioned something just now, about protection, and Franklin, his main source of protection has been Peaches, and he was missing in this episode.
Hmm.
You alluded to the little hint they dropped for us, with Parissa. She was talking about, HIV patients and stuff, basically playing into the fact that HIV was, was a big deal around this time. Um, and yeah, that is like a very significant hint there. But we also had, I believe it was either Leon or Jerome, or somebody in that scene. They were questioning that, the fact that Peaches is missing, that he wasn't around. So
Hmm.
I guess they were kind of thinking that he might be involved, or he might have betrayed Franklin or something.
Hmm.
So do you think there's any possibility in that Peaches is involved in this, and that, maybe he's not actually sick, maybe he's just been lining Franklin up, maybe he's been working with the other side, whether it's Kevin's brother or whatever.
Hmm.
Do you think that is a possibility at all, or do you think 100% he has HIV?
That's a very interesting theory. I found it very curious how it makes sense why they would question him because he wasn't there. Any other time, he's always been around.
Mm,
So that could be a misdirect from the writers, with the whole sickness thing. The only reason why, though, I think it definitely is a situation where he is sick is because it's been multiple episodes this season where he's been sick.
yeah.
Um, the first two episodes, and then the episode that followed after that, when he had the interaction with Franklin, he said, "No, don't give me a handshake. I have a expecting girlfriend at home." So it makes me think that, yeah, the character, I think, definitely has HIV. It's contracted it one way or another. They also made mention in that particular conversation, Jerome knows Peaches better than anybody else, and therefore he would know. And he was the one that said no. He definitely wouldn't have done this. So it's interesting. Now to flip it on the other hand, on the other end now, if Peaches did try to turn against Franklin, it also is believable to an extent because the very first episode when they had to kill Rob, Peaches obviously wasn't feeling too well. Maybe he was out of it, but he was very shocked to see Rob his head get blown off by Franklin. So, I mean, the thing about it is this: whenever you're in a situation where you see somebody is in a position of power and then they start to seem unstable because of the actions that they decide to take upon themselves, you got to feel a little bit afraid of that. And again, the thing is, up until this point, this episode in particular, there hasn't really been anybody putting any pressure on Franklin. That changes now. As you said, this episode changes that dynamic completely because now they can see how easy it is for this business to get torn to shreds because of others coming in trying to take them out. So, um, I kind of feel like it's an interesting theory to think that Peaches would turn on Franklin because nobody would see that coming because the character has been loyal up to this point. But again, we'll have to see what happens. But I think because they emphasize the sickness so much, it feels to me like it has to be that now. But I'll be surprised if it's the exact opposite. That'll be very interesting twist that nobody would have guessed.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess they would have to explain, him, actually being sick and, sneezing, coughing and all that stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
that they would have to explain why he's doing that. And maybe he was faking it, but it didn't really seem that way. So
Yeah. No,
yeah.
it didn't seem that way. So we'll see. But I'm curious to see what happens the next time when we find out what actually does happen to Peaches. What the reaction will be from the audience, the people watching the show. Are they all going to say, "Yeah, this totally, yeah, we saw this coming," or is it going to be something that we completely don't see coming? That's what I'm curious to see.
Mhm. But here's the thing as well, because I even if Peaches was there, like if he was at the deal, I don't think he could have stopped what happened.
No, no. Mm-mm.
He might have even ended up getting hit by them.
Yeah. Oh, he absolutely would have got killed, I think.
Yeah.
There had to be some casualties, and I'm a little surprised that I'm glad that they showed that Franklin got they took shots at Franklin. Gustavo got shot, Teddy got shot, because if this was another show, which I'm not going to mention, nobody would have gotten shot. None of the important characters would have taken a bullet. It just would have just gotten But I'm just saying, I'm glad that they took the risk to make you guess and really be on the edge of your seat, wondering, oh, is Gustavo going to make it? Is Teddy going to make it? Because Teddy looked like he the one that got shot the most out of all of them. He had the most serious of injuries, so it's good decision to misdirect the audience. But yeah, I think we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. And yeah, just I'm not gonna mention the other show, but I say that like Snowfall continues to show the difference in writing,
Yeah.
and like because this episode in particular, like it makes you feel what's happening. It makes you experience it. Like you feel the intensity, you feel the suspense, and you're just like on the edge of your seat, throughout the whole episode, like waiting for what's going to happen next. But in other shows, it kind of feels like stuff just happens, and it's like, oh, okay, like
Mm-hmm.
you're desensitized to it almost. Like you have no attachment to it just because it hasn't been set up the right way. But in Snowfall, it's like all the pieces fall correctly, and
Mm-hmm.
you just feel that intensity and that suspense. And this episode did a great job of that. So I want to
I
hope that.
I agree 100% with everything you said. Um, I mean, again, I know that some people that criticize this episode, if for them, they're like, oh, the writing has fallen off. They're just throwing a whole bunch of stuff to see what sticks. I disagree with that. However, I will say the tiger thing, I understand at the end of that why people are like, okay, now this idea feels like it just came completely out of left field, because I would have never guessed. Obviously, I knew that Franklin and Gustavo, they were still going to be stranded wherever they was by the end of this episode. But I never would have guessed now they are being held hostage by somebody who was claiming to be an excellent tiger trainer. However, I am the greatest. I just want to make that clear that I'm the greatest. I don't know who this other old guy is, but I just that was a little out there, because I would have never guessed. It's almost like you have something that is rooted in reality, but then you add a mythical element to it, like when they have this, like for example on The Walking Dead, when they have the character Ezekiel and the tiger that all of a sudden that is now a part of the show. That felt like that was something that didn't feel natural. It happened in the comics, so it made sense, but I'm just saying in this particular show, I understand why people would be like, what's up with this tiger though? But I think it was designed to show you just how crazy and off the rails things can get. So that's why I'm willing to say, okay, I'm fine. But again, we need to see what happens in part two, because
Yeah.
that's important.
Yeah, I do agree that was a weird place to end the episode,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like they could have had a much better moment, or like a much better cliffhanger, basically, based on what happened in the episode. Um, but because it kind of feels like the solution to them being in the cage with the tiger is basically going to be, okay, the old guy questions them and then lets them out. Like it kind of seems like it's just going to be something simple like that,
Well, yeah, but that trailer for next week, look like he trying to give the tiger a meal. Talk about, hey, I got some food for you here. So the guy is crazy, whoever this guy is. But yeah, that's what you say. He's trying to get answers. They don't have anything to give him though. I mean, are they going to tell him, "Oh, we have some cash stash. Just let us free, and you can have the money"? I mean, I don't know if they're going to take that approach, but I think you made a comment when you did send me a text saying that money probably definitely is going to get stolen.
Yeah, they didn't even close the door. Like when they got out of that little crawl space or whatever, they left the door open.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they didn't close the door properly. So of course somebody's gonna see it open and look inside and see the bags there.
So that'll be another reason that Teddy will be angry later if they lose the money also, because he definitely gonna have some issues with Parissa in the product that he has in his car.
Yeah, well, he better hope that he doesn't lose the drugs, because
yeah,
those drugs could easily go missing. So,
oh yeah, mm-hmm.
But yeah, interesting times for sure. But that was all the questions I had. Was there anything else specifically that you wanted to bring up about the?
No, I think we touched on a lot of points. I did want to make a comment that I want to thank everybody who left a comment on last week's episode. There's a lot of excellent theories, excellent feedback. So please do continue to do that, because it would be great to be in a room talking with all of you about the show as it's happening, but we don't have that ability at the moment. But I definitely, seeing your comments feels like it's a conversation that's continuing. So please continue to leave your comments, because I'm always curious what everybody's going to have to say about this episode. And there's a lot that happened, so I definitely want to hear people's thoughts on what happened. Were they disappointed with the ending? Are they looking forward to what's going to happen next week? And do they think that Kevin's brother is definitely involved in all of this? So yeah, definitely leave your comments, because I look forward to reading all of those, and we will respond to the comments also. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll be responding to all of them. And yeah, I'm going to be checking, all the Facebook groups. I'm going to be checking our comments or anything about Snowfall. And I'm looking heavily at it today, because it was such an interesting episode, and we have to wait a whole week, and this is going to be the longest week ever now, because I want to find out what happens. So.
Oh yeah. Well, I will say this: there is another show that is taking a break very soon. So next week is a very important week for Snowfall. I'll just say that. I think that they should have a lot of people watching next week, because there can't be the excuse of, oh, there's another show on TV. No, that show is taking a break next week. So I'm very curious to see if that next episode delivers, because it has to. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I wish FX was paying more attention to the marketing, because if I was FX, I would be like, "Oh, you're taking a break? Okay, well we're gonna give them 2 episodes again. You're getting 2.
Yeah, I agree. And see to just to piggyback off of that, next week is also the premiere of Atlanta season 3. So literally, they're going to have a lot of people watching FX, a lot more people watching next week. So that's why I said the next Snowfall episode, it really, it got to be solid, like this one was. Like, I mean, it's been an excellent season so far, but next week especially, because that's an opportunity to pull more viewers into the show. So I hope that they got something great planned.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's going to be a special week for them then, because I know people have been waiting for that Atlanta show. So, so yeah, special week. But yeah, we will be back next week to recap part 2 of the Iliad, and I guess that will be episode 6. So yeah, we'll be back. So until then, shout outs to everyone who supports the show, leaves comments, and who continues to support every week. Even the people who watched the first season we did of Snowfall Aftermath and came back and to check for us again. We appreciate you all, and you are the reason we do this. So and also let us know what other shows you guys are watching and what you would like to see us cover too, because we're always looking for more shows that we can cover that we know people will enjoy. The same people that watch us now. So definitely let us know. But yeah, we will be back next week. So take care of yourselves, and we'll see you then. Peace out.
Peace.